All right. So we have the Four of Pentacles as your underlying energy. We have the Eight of Pentacles underneath that. So, okay. What am I getting from this, right? I'm gonna grab my crystals here because they help me concentrate. But the Four of Pentacles and your underlying energy would suggest something that you're holding on to. You put a lot of work into this. Put a lot of work. The Four of Pentacles, without a doubt, understandably so, is holding on to what he's worked so hard on. But this is also settling for what you have done so far. Because the Four of Pentacles, they don't stop here, right? We go further. We go to the 10. We're not at the 10 yet here, though. We're at 4. So we have 6 more steps to go. And the fact that we stopped at 6, stopped at 4, with 6 away, suggests that we could do more with what we know, rather than settle for what we know we could do more with. And I feel like, Gemini, you feel the same way. You feel like, yes, you have the potential to go further. You did the 8 and you dropped all the way down to 4. You stopped halfway through. And it's not because, again, you just wanted to stop. It's because you got to a great point, everything was looking up, but it didn't reach the best that it could be. And so I think you're noticing that. You're noticing that, okay, I worked hard, I did the best I could, and the work that I put in for it is not necessarily everything that I wanted, but it's something that I can be content with for a little bit. However, you know that even with this placement being comfortable and nice, there's, when it comes to going further, there is a little bit more scratching of the surface, which will honestly hack away the work that you've done. Not saying that what you've done was pointless anyway, it was pointless, but you showed yourself not only how far you can go and the greatness of the hard work that you can put in, but also that because you can put so much work in and you can make something so great, why settle for something that isn't up to where it could be? So I'm not trying to say to compare or take the time now to go ahead and compare to others or compare to, what you believe you could do more of, but why settle or stop where you could continue to grow, to be better? This doesn't have to just do with a relationship. This could also do with sometimes with our development, right? With maybe we think, oh, we know enough for now. We don't need to go any further, or there's no learning. We don't need to learn anymore. This is very similar to, I don't want to say, like an old person mentality. Then I'm not trying to slag off or trying to insult any old folks out here. But what I am saying is that usually when people get to a certain age, they stop wanting to learn. They stop wanting to change because they get to a good spot. They know that this is not necessarily the top of where they can necessarily stop necessarily, they can go further. And I think that everybody that has the Four of Pentacles, they know they can go further. But it's just like, ooh, am I willing to take the risk to uproot this comfortability, this stability, and go after what I believe could be better than this? It's usually a hard one. And usually people just say, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to stay here because this is what makes me fine. I'm fine here. I don't need to push this. It took me a long time to get to just this point. However, does this mean that you are happy here? I mean, because it looks like with holding back, he's missing out on one hell of a party, one hell of a community. He's kind of closing himself off to the world, if you think about it. Because look at the city that's behind him. He's not engaged with the city. He's not engaged with anyone. And there could be really great developments in there. He could expand his business and go there, but instead he's keeping it local, keeping it safe, keeping it close, keeping it from where it could go out of control, and he'd have to start over and start again in a new way to expand what he needs to expand so he can continue to benefit and be happy. So, in this regard, where where are you doing this for you? And I feel like that's why the Hermit's coming up, because I think you're noticing that you're in a stopping period, or you haven't decided to, or you haven't been pushing in a direction, or you may be fine single, but emotionally you're craving more. There's something about it. You're craving more. You're craving a relationship, but there's a part of you that says, no, I'm good on my own. I don't need another person. I don't need anybody else. But that doesn't mean that you don't want it. And it doesn't mean that you can't have it, or you shouldn't have it. Or if you're good, you might as well just stay there because where you are is good enough. I feel like whatever you believe is safe isn't necessarily giving you the happiness that you're looking for, which is why you're the hermit energy coming out in the first place, right? What you're following, what will make you happy, and it's outside of your comfort zone, which brings the dilemma, the endings and beginnings. What are you ending? What are you beginning? Perhaps something that's to do with something that makes you feel comfortable, but not bring you really any happiness. It's not bringing anything to you. So here we are. The heart of the reading, if this thing could focus. I have some coffee here. I've been just kind of slurping on this, enjoying myself. But I'm going to actually use this as a tool to refocus my camera right now, because it's doing one heck of a job focusing on the reading. There we go. So back to the focus of this reading here. The heart of your reading, guys, is the Five of Wands. Okay, what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Well, the situation that's playing out at this point is conflict, right? There's something conflicting. There's some sort of challenge that's presented to you, right? Or there's some sort of disagreement within the workplace, within your love life, within yourself. There's something that's not quite in agreement or quite stable here. That's not a bad thing, though. It just means it's intense and it's really, it can feel like it's a lot to handle at once, but you can handle it, right? The weirdest thing is that you have the Eight of Cups. What does that mean, though, when the Eight of Cups is crossing? Well, in my eyes, it's like there's a situation that presents a challenge, and you have nothing further to give to this. There's a lot of fighting, but you're not interested in fighting anymore. The Eight of Cups would suggest to me that you're done with it. You're done with it. You're not interested in it. But considering it's blocking, perhaps what it's saying here is that yes, there's some sort of conflict here. Conflict, yes, but perhaps in which to review the cups that you're walking away with, the part of the emotional doneness that you think you're feeling. Are you truly emotionally done, or are you just fed up with the constant back and forth, the constant battle of getting to where you want to be? And which is totally understandable too. But I feel like with the Eight of Cups here, right? It's honestly fair if it's been a while and you've been fighting and going back and forth and having these conflicts with people that it's kind of deterred you away. But I feel like even if this is talking about you don't have anything else to give to the arguing or the fighting, I feel like it's like a temporary delay in regards to reviewing what is going on, assessing this based off of what you want. So I don't think necessarily you're done, but I do feel like whatever this was put you off initially. You don't like that part. You don't like this part of the Five of Wands where there may be the dating apps or something like that. Or maybe this is in regards to a project and working with certain coworkers and they're just argumentative, egotistical, and unable to work with. Whatever that is, you are not interested in that aspect. But there are some things or something that is still compelling that still draws you back to it. So there is this yo-yo effect. And that will constantly get you back into that drama or that constant conflict, a constant turmoil, because even though you're annoyed with how this is going, I feel like there's something that still brings you back to these cups because there's something still there to look at. I know, totally interesting and weird way of looking at it, but I feel like this is what's happening for some of you. It could, for some of you, still be that other way, like I said. You guys are just tired of the fighting, tired of the mumbo-jumbo. You're just done with it. So you're no longer interested in going this direction. It may bring to light to you what you don't want, so therefore you can go and find what it is that you want by focusing on what you feel, which very well could be what's going on here too. And I feel like that's very much so tied with the other thing too. You know what you don't want through the arguing, through the conflicts, through the mingling, and now you're going to go for what you want by focusing on what you want, by focusing on how you want to feel. But at the same time, even then, you're still trying to find what do you want to feel. So in the past, you have the hangman. So things have been stagnant in the past. Things haven't been moving in the past necessarily. Like nothing moving in the progression of anything, but they're really just trying to get a better understanding of it. At most, you're trying to see something from a different perspective by not engaging. Right? You're surrendering to the perspective. You're surrendering to what's being presented to you. And instead of reacting to it or being a part of it, you're not engaging in it. You're sitting back and looking at it from a different lens, from a different angle, from a different perspective, so that way you can bring about something within you that will help figure out what you need to understand for yourself. So that totally makes sense here with the hangman. Nothing was progressing here, no relationships, no progression of any sort, but just trying to understand you for who you are based off of whatever you're trying to look at. And you were looking at it from different angles. So there was a lot of patience, a lot of surrendering, a lot of going with the flow, a lot of trusting yourself, a lot of trusting the universe. A lot of trust went into this. And the product of this hangman in the past is bringing the King of Wands. Your energy has gone up. Your focus is all about having more fun or enjoying yourself and being authentic to who you are. I feel like right here you want to express. You want to be more expressive, and you want to, to indulge into life experiences. But on top of this understanding of yourself, you've gained more confidence in yourself too. You've gained a tremendous amount of confidence. You see yourself with great esteem. However, with the Eight of Cups crossing this, I still feel like with this conflict energy, there is a bit of revision here. There is still an element of revision. But I feel like this is the revision of you leaving behind what you were not satisfied with. And now you're looking at this situation from the perspective of where you weren't satisfied to know exactly what you need to do for yourself to be satisfied. This is the death of what was in the beginning of what is. Not settling for less. I feel like you're noticing from where you are, the high confidence person that you are now, you're noticing where you've been, either where you have settled with this kind of conflict, with this kind of energy, where you have settled and where you can expand more because you are aware of your capabilities. You're aware of your power. You're aware of your strengths, where your heart really lies. You are so hyper aware of this now that this situation you don't want anything to do with necessarily, but you do have a different approach to how you want to handle this now. Because there's no way you can give back to this what you used to give back to it, because you're not in that level. You're not in that area now where that makes sense to you to do. It's just boring and it doesn't really give you anything. So it's like going back to that old way of being. Yes, it's a mechanism perhaps that's still in you, perhaps. But I still feel like you're not interested in engaging with something that truly doesn't make you feel good. King of Wands only does what makes him feel good. He doesn't do anything otherwise. So what didn't make you feel good? Well, you're about to change that whole process because you've taken the time out to understand, to get out of your own way and see what you need to see with this. And it's usually very hard because Gemini, let's be honest, right? A lot of 90% of the time, you're in your head. You're in your mind. And instead of being in your mind, you let yourself just be. And that gave you the answers. And that's why you're more confident now. Because you know who you are. You know who you want to be or what you want to have now. Because you allowed yourself to not overthink every little action that you did. Or overthink every action that someone else did. You got completely out of the way so that way you can see who you truly are. And now you can express based on that. What I like to see, though, actually, is the High Priestess in your future. This is kind of like my favorite part because it leads a lot of mystery, but you also know what your future will look like because you already have an intention to make something happen. So the High Priestess is literally a representation here, and I always say this in past readings, I think. The High Priestess is not telling me your future. It's not saying anything. It's based off of just being open and being yourself. Well, because you're yourself, you know what this future looks like. You already have an idea what this is. You already know what your future is. So there's no reading for this. There's no like card that would suggest anything more, because what your King of Wands self is saying here is like, I know what I'm going to make. I don't need to know. The future isn't going to be anything different than what I'm trying to do. Because you're not looking for a different future. You're not looking for a future outside of yourself because you're aware of your power. You are aware of your power, so therefore you know that your power is to create your future. So you don't need it. You don't need a card that suggests a future. That right there is power. That right there is some scary ass shit. Why? Because if somebody is aware of what they're capable of doing, they can create so many great things. They can create so many great things for themselves. And that also shows this person's unstoppable. Because there's nothing outside of their realm of power that they can and cannot do. There's nothing. So the High Priestess is my favorite part of this reading here, because you know what your future looks like, because you know that your power will make sure that happens. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So your advice is the Ten of Cups. There's people already around you, based off of your surveying, based off of your your turmoils with other people, where you've expended your energy here with the Eight of Cups. You are aware of the happiness that surrounds you and the people that are willing to celebrate and be around you with this energy. It's finding the happiness and contentment where you are with the people that are currently here. And that's how you plan to manifest whatever you plan to manifest. You're done with the comfort zones. You're done being confined. You're done living in a world where it's only one way of being, because you are not that. You are more than that. And you are aware of that because of where you had stopped for a moment to recognize. The Eight of Pentacles isn't just about holding stuff back and keeping things to yourself and all this stuff. It's not just savings. It's also taking account for what you have and noticing where you could prosper from, but with the time that you spend with taking as much account as from what you have. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense, because I know that the way I said that was like, woo. But I'll say it one more time. This is not just a card that represents martyrism or martyrdom. This is a card that doesn't necessarily just talk about saving. It's also about taking account for what you have. It's about reviewing what you have. You already have everything right here. Or you have what you believe is everything, but really isn't everything, because the time that you spend to realize that to have this, you're noticing what you have. You're noticing that there could be more, because you're also taking the time out to realize where you're spending your energy into, and what your energy is expended into is a stagnant energy that doesn't grow. Does that make sense? And that's okay, because you didn't need to grow. You needed to see what you needed to see where here, so you can go for more. So that way you can feel, so that way you can feel the urge to go for more. It's interesting. The happiness is right here, right around the corner. It's just based off of whether or not you're, whether or not, if you have, the desire to do it, and really to just say goodbye to how this world used to be, and being the King of Wands and entering a new way. I don't think the Eight of House is coming up to say, oh, yeah, you're going through some changes, or not necessarily saying that, oh, something's going to end and something's going to begin. You've gone through a transformation. This is a representation of you going through a serious transformation. You are a new generation of Geminis. You are a new version of Geminis right now. And you did that by looking from your perspective at what you believe you needed to see for yourself to be able to evolve to the person that you are now, that's unstoppable.